Okay, so we're diving right in today. Something that, is a big deal, right? Like, how do we actually get generative AI to work for us in 2025? No more playing around. We
Absolutely.
got this report, Keys to Winning with Gen AI, Q1 2025. That's what it's called.
Oh, very timely.
Super timely. And our goal today is really to extract the really critical knowledge you need. So you can be in the know quickly, but you're not like wading through a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it because, if you think about it, the last 2 years have really been about first, curiosity with Gen AI,
Yeah.
and then a kind of a period of experimentation.
Right.
And a lot of that experimentation still continues. This report really puts forward the case that 2025 is the year we start to move beyond experimentation and start to see some real results. So that's why we want to sort of distill the key takeaways here for everybody, because we think this is going to be the year where Gen AI really starts to impact organizations in a tangible way.
You know, I think the report even uses this term Gen AI saturation,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was so interesting in 2024, basically,
Mm-hmm.
where, the excitement, I think, outpaced what was actually being delivered.
Right.
But that initial spark, like, nobody can deny it, right?
Yeah.
ChatGPT comes on the scene,
Yeah.
100 million users, faster than any technology in history.
Yeah, and so interesting was it seemed like a consumer phenomenon at first.
Right.
Everybody was playing with it, just for fun.
Yeah.
But businesses kind of, I think, immediately grasped the underlying power of what it could do.
Right.
We were already seeing, use cases popping up for very concrete business problems,
Mhm.
like how to make customer support much more efficient and effective
Right.
and cost effective at the same time. Breaking down information silos within organizations, starting to really think about personalized marketing at scale, and even, risk and business intelligence use cases.
Yeah, and you see that even in the market reaction. The report points to, some of these companies that are really driving this Gen AI shift. Their valuations, are through the roof. We're
Yeah.
seeing things like, 804%, 138%, 87%,
It's incredible.
93%, 116%. It's just these crazy gains.
Right.
Um, and, OpenAI projected to hit $157 billion in value by the end of last year. I mean, that's not even public yet, with billions in revenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, this report is really capturing this. It's like there's a huge impact here that is anticipated.
So, I mean, the potential is clearly enormous, but there is this kind of core puzzle to solve, which is the report really highlights. It's taking these general smarts of Gen AI.
Right?
Think about ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Meta's Llama, Anthropic's Claude,
Yeah.
all of these, and actually making them work within the specific context of your organization,
Right.
because that's the real challenge.
And so maybe let's unpack that a little bit. I mean, because these pre-trained models, they're super powerful because they've been trained on this massive amount of information
Yeah.
publicly available. But, that initial broad training
Yeah.
also means that they're limited when you apply them to the specific challenges of a business.
Right. Precisely. And so your company's own data, the stuff that
Yeah.
you're using to make decisions, your unique kind of insights.
Right.
That stuff wasn't a part of their initial learning.
Right.
Plus, a lot of these models are trained on data that cuts off at a certain point in time. And so a lot of things have happened in the world since then.
Right.
So it may not know those things. And then, of course, there's this whole issue of hallucination, which everyone's heard about,
Right.
where
Right.
the models kind of confidently make up answers
Yeah. Yeah.
when they don't actually know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So keeping that in mind, this deep dive today is really about this core question that the report answers.
Mhm.
How do organizations like yours accelerate their time to value with Gen AI, but do it securely and responsibly? Okay, and to answer this, the report really lays out 5 keys to winning, which I love.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get into this with you.
Yeah, me too. These keys really speak to the core questions that we're hearing from leaders. How much of a game changer will Gen AI really be?
Mm-hmm.
How quickly do we need to adapt?
Right.
Where do we even begin? How do we navigate the risks?
Yeah.
Do we have the right people in place? So we'll kind of go through each of the keys and explain what they are and how they can help organizations think through that.
Awesome. All right, well, let's jump right in.
Okay.
So key number 1, a clear and compelling vision to win with Gen AI. Now, this isn't just some nice aspiration. The report emphasizes this. It's like this multi-year North Star
Yeah.
that will steer your priorities and get everyone in your organization on the same page.
Yeah, and what's really insightful about this is how they break it down into 5 critical steps.
Right.
So first, it's about demystifying Gen AI. Like,
Mhm.
what are these technologies capable of? No. And looking forward a bit, how will they likely evolve in your specific industry?
Right.
Second, it's about defining GenAI's role in your business model.
Right.
Is it primarily going to be a growth driver,
Hmm.
an efficiency driver? Is it about the customer experience?
Right.
Is it about productivity? So you have to have that clarity. Then the third step is articulating your vision. And the report actually even talks about how you can use GenAI tools to actually articulate your vision.
Wow.
So you can actually use this technology to have these structured sessions to achieve clarity and alignment.
That's so cool.
Then step 4 is about communicating that vision clearly and consistently to everyone involved,
Yeah.
from the board all the way down to the front lines, to your customers, your partners, your suppliers. And again, the report notes that you can use GenAI tools to help you do that.
Oh, wow. That's super cool.
And then finally, you can't just sort of set this vision once. This is an evolving vision.
Yeah.
Things are changing so rapidly with Gen AI. New possibilities are emerging. So you have to build in this notion of constantly checking in and reviewing your vision to make sure it stays relevant and really in sync with your broader strategy.
Okay. So this report also really helpfully kind of lays out, the essential characteristics of a really effective Gen AI vision. It needs to be strategically aligned,
Mm-hmm.
so it directly supports your overall business goals.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be clear and focused,
Mm-hmm.
so it helps you prioritize the areas where Gen AI can have the biggest impact. It should be both inspiring and pragmatic.
Yeah.
We've got to balance the ambition with what you can actually execute.
Right.
Outcome-oriented is the fourth one.
Mm-hmm.
Which I love that. It's like we have to define how we measure success and what are the benefits.
Totally.
And then lastly, it has to foster collaboration and adaptability.
Right.
So we're bringing different parts of the organization together, and we can adjust as we learn more. So, it makes sense. Like, if you think about it, when new technology comes along, especially one that is changing so rapidly, it can be so tempting to just jump straight into the technical side.
Absolutely.
And just figure it out as we go along.
Yeah.
But this report makes it really clear that's a recipe for, maybe not hitting those goals
Yeah.
that you have.
I think that's right. And this notion of a clear vision is more critical than ever.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that North Star you mentioned to guide all your efforts.
So to recap, for building or refining your Gen AI vision,
yeah.
assess your current state. Figure out precisely where Gen AI will fit into your business. Actually define or refine the vision itself. Communicate it really widely and effectively,
Yeah.
and build in a process for regular review and optimization. Okay, so I love all of that. Let's move on to key number 2.
Yeah, let's do it.
The strategy and roadmap to win with Gen AI.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this is where we take that inspiring vision and we turn it into those concrete, actionable plans.
Absolutely. This is about translating those high-level goals into practical steps and avoiding some of the pitfalls that the report highlights, which I think are very common. Mistaking experimentation for strategy.
Right.
Not having clear priorities, overlooking the way different projects depend on one another, having roadmaps that nobody can understand.
Right.
That are just too complex and setting rigid plans in a world where things are moving very fast.
Totally. Yeah.
So it kind of provides 4 key steps for defining your GenAI strategy and roadmap.
Okay.
So first is building your strategy foundation. This involves setting a clear direction for the next 12, 18 months. Your strategic intent, the focus areas, and how you're going to measure success. Then defining priorities and target outcomes.
Right.
What are those quick wins? What are the top priority initiatives?
Yep.
What are those measurable outcomes you're going to go after? And how do you balance those sort of short-term momentum wins with developing capability? Third is defining and aligning your roadmap. So this is this high-level plan that considers the roadblocks and risks, the dependencies between different projects, how you're going to sequence them, and really making sure you have buy-in from all the different stakeholders across the organization.
So the next part is, I love this too.
Yeah.
It can't be set in stone. Right?
Exactly.
We've got to evolve this strategy and roadmap, right?
Absolutely. So the report recommends regular reviews, maybe every quarter, to make sure that you're incorporating new learnings, reacting to what your competitors are doing, and making sure that your plan is staying relevant and effective.
Now, this report also helpfully for you listening details the characteristics of a high-quality Gen AI strategy and roadmap. They should be readiness-driven and competency-based. which basically means they're grounded in an honest assessment of your current skills and what do you need to build.
Right.
What are your strengths? They need to be strategic and focused,
Mm-hmm.
clear purpose, identify those areas of impact, but we still need to be flexible. They should be actionable and adaptive.
Mm-hmm.
So they're defined work streams, but we're ready to adjust as needed.
Right.
Outcome-oriented and measurable.
Yeah.
So we're tracking our progress with those well-defined metrics.
Right.
And lastly, cross-functional and collaborative.
Yeah.
So this gets to the heart of bringing those different teams together
Yeah.
and making sure everyone's working towards the same goals.
Totally. And this is all about making sure you're set up for success. How do you create this integrated strategy and roadmap?
Yeah.
The report's got some great guidance on that. Conduct a thorough assessment of your current capabilities. Where are you? Define or refine your strategy. Draw on those successful scaling patterns. You can even leverage GenAI tools to help you do that. Prioritize those initiatives. Proactively identify potential risks. Figure out how you're going to measure your progress. And crucially, deliver on those early quick wins.
Right.
To get momentum and demonstrate that value, be agile and move quickly. But also think systematically about how you're building those underlying capabilities. And then finally, align and communicate your strategy and roadmap.
I love that. So we have the overarching vision. We have the concrete strategy. Now we got to get down to actually building and deploying solutions.
Right.
This brings us to key number 3, productizing high-impact GenAI solutions. Now, this report acknowledges that a lot of early adopters kind of hit a wall here. They saw some promising results in those initial experiments, but really struggled to scale those successes into real products.
Absolutely. And there are a couple of key contributing factors there. The limited in-house expertise.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people with the skills or experience in actually applying Gen AI to real-world problems. Often a lot of fragmented efforts, lots of little projects.
Yeah.
The technology itself was still maturing, and so, sometimes the solutions were not quite there yet.
Right.
Gaps in those foundational capabilities. Making sure your data is ready for AI. Having robust ways to evaluate how well your models are actually performing.
Yeah.
And just a general lack of established best practices for taking a Gen AI concept and turning it into a product.
Well, and I think that's what's so exciting about this report, because we're really starting to see those best practices emerge.
Yeah.
So what are these 5 key strategies that they offer to overcome those challenges?
Right.
Number 1, develop Gen AI SME capacity.
Right.
Make those strategic investments in building those in-house expertise through talent development programs, both self-paced learning, but also coach-led training.
That's right.
So a combination.
Yeah. And second, strategic focus. Don't try to boil the ocean.
Yeah.
Don't try to do everything at once.
Right.
Focus on a small set, maybe 3 to 5 initially.
Yeah.
High impact use cases.
Yeah.
Really go deep.
Okay.
Establish some reusable patterns.
Oh, what that?
And then the third piece is learn from and potentially leverage maturing frameworks. So, frameworks like LangChain and Lemma Index are great examples. Even if you ultimately build your own solutions,
Right.
which a lot of organizations do so they can maintain control, looking at how those frameworks have evolved and what they're doing can provide a lot of insight into best practices.
Okay.
And you may even be able to take advantage of some of the components they provide.
So cool.
Fourth is continue to strengthen those foundational capabilities. So this is ongoing. You have to make sure you're aligning your roadmap with those investments.
Okay.
In data readiness, evaluation, and building security in from the ground up.
And I love this 5th one because I think this is where so many companies struggle, including us.
Yeah.
Streamlining product life cycles.
Boy.
Adopting those clear, customer-centric processes to take you from that initial idea to a fully deployed and supported solution.
That's right. And the report highlights the importance of integrating evaluation-driven development.
EDD.
EDD, exactly. And carefully considering those product economics.
Yeah.
So what does it cost?
Yeah.
And what will people pay?
So the report kind of outlines this structured approach.
Yeah.
And I really like this.
I do too.
Because, there are so many different ways to approach it. But it starts with really understanding your GenAI customer. Define your target users, the problems they're trying to solve. their unique needs,
Yeah.
the kind of experience you want to deliver.
And then validate your ideas.
Right.
You got to test the technical feasibility, make sure you're testing against real world data,
Right.
make sure it can scale, do that solution market fit validation. Is there actually a demand?
Yeah.
And then make those sometimes tough go-no-go decisions
Right.
based on what you've learned.
Okay. So step 3 is develop and support your solution.
Right.
This is where we leverage the growing body of best practices in GenAI solution design.
Yep.
You're using the data that you gather from your evaluations to refine your approach. You're optimizing your retrieval augmented generation pipeline, or RAG.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth just pausing for a second here.
Yeah.
Because for folks listening who maybe aren't as familiar with that, it's a key technique for getting really high quality and relevant answers from your GenAI.
Precisely.
And then, of course, implementing those secure and responsible AI practices throughout the development process.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we get to the critical part, which is enabling adoption.
Totally.
You can't just build it and they will come. We all know that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
You need those targeted marketing strategies, effective sales approaches, training programs for your employees,
Yeah.
internal communication. The report actually even mentions using GenAI to create some of the training materials,
That's really cool.
anticipating and addressing those regulatory or cultural barriers.
Yeah.
Some people may be uncomfortable with GenAI.
Yeah.
So how do you bring them along? Build in those regular reviews
Yeah.
of your evaluation data. Make sure you're using customer feedback. Don't just ignore that stuff. It's gold. And constantly refining those adoption strategies and managing those product economics.
Yeah. Okay, so the report also does a really great job of kind of characterizing, like, what does a high-performing GenAI product organization look like?
Yeah.
They typically have focused portfolios. They're not trying to do too much.
Right.
They're really emphasizing quality and impact over quantity.
Exactly.
They are user-centric. They constantly focus on and address those needs of the people who are going to be using their solution.
That's right.
Strong data foundations.
Yeah.
They leverage high-quality, well-managed data to train their models. Disciplined evaluation. So they're constantly checking how things are performing.
Right.
And agile innovation.
Yeah.
They're iterating, moving quickly.
So to accelerate your own productization efforts,
Yeah.
stay focused on those meaningful problems. Validate with those production level use cases in mind.
Right.
Embed EDD at every stage and really master those RAG techniques for different types of questions and information needs.
Okay, we're building these solutions.
Yeah.
But to do it effectively and at scale, you need the right underlying capabilities in place. And that's the fourth key, the capabilities to win with GenAI. So the report emphasizes that successful adoption hinges on really developing, internalizing, and scaling.
Right.
A whole bunch of essential skills and expertise within your organization.
That's right.
So what are those crucial capabilities? And they fall into 4 main categories.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Enabling GenAI governance and operational integrity. Maturing foundational GenAI capabilities. Implementing GenAI scaling capabilities. And implementing advanced GenAI capabilities. Now, of course, depending on the size and complexity of your organization, the ownership and structure of these capabilities might be different.
Right.
But I think it's helpful to think about it in these 4 categories.
Exactly. It's a framework for thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right. Oh.
So enabling GenAI governance and operational integrity. Let's unpack that one first. Secure AI. So robust data protection. Strong safeguards against those malicious attacks.
Yeah.
Making sure we're compliant with all the regulation.
That's right. Responsible AI.
Yes.
Ethical considerations. How do you mitigate potential bias?
Yeah.
The spread of misinformation. How do you make sure you're being transparent about how the systems are working?
Yeah.
Integrated GenAI change management. How do you integrate this into your existing processes and workflows?
Right.
Implementing the controls, leveraging DevOps, MLAOps for smooth transitions, and then integrated governance insights.
So I love this. This is like, we're going to make our governance and risk and compliance data more accessible and automated.
That's right.
And use analytics for more proactive risk identification and management.
Exactly. Now let's talk about maturing foundational GenAI capabilities.
Yeah.
So GenAI ready data,
Correct.
right? Semantic understanding, overall quality, freshness, and completeness.
LLM evaluation and selection. So we're establishing this structured and rigorous process for choosing the most appropriate large language models.
Yeah, right.
Foundational orchestration.
Right.
So I love this. This is like managing the flow of information requests within our systems.
Right.
And what happens if something goes wrong? Like, how do we handle
Yep.
errors?
GenAI UX design.
Right.
This is it.
Okay, love
Yeah,
that.
how can make these things user-friendly
Yeah,
and intuitive
yeah,
and consistent
yeah.
and evaluation as a service.
Right.
Yeah. Making sure you have those platforms and standardized methods to see how well your LLMs are performing.
And LLM and GenAI operations.
Yep.
The scalable and secure infrastructure.
Mhm.
Robust data pipelines. The monitoring, the logging.
Right, all that stuff.
So implementing GenAI scaling capabilities. Talent development. I love this.
Mm-hmm.
Identifying those skills your organization needs.
Mm-hmm.
And targeted learning and development.
Mm-hmm. GenAI Center of Enablement.
Oh, this one's a good one. So important. So this acts as a central hub for best practices in responsible and secure AI, technology and architecture decisions, leading advanced capability development, and providing capabilities as a service.
Mm-hmm. GenAI brand building.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You know, establishing your organization as a leader in this space,
Yeah.
thought leadership, case studies,
Mhm.
sharing your successes, participating in industry events, really building trust and transparency.
Integrated product economics analytics. So this is the money side of things.
That's right. How do you understand the true cost
Mhm.
and profitability of your solutions? You
Yeah.
know, providing that fully loaded cost view, integrating and normalizing data from all these different sources,
Yeah.
offering those visualizations that really help people understand what's going on,
Mhm.
and, you know, allowing for scenario analysis and operational alerts.
Okay. So we're moving into kind of the more advanced capabilities here.
Yeah.
Implementing advanced GenAI capabilities.
Yep.
And this is really where things get interesting. This is where we start to think about the future. Advanced ML and AI expertise. Combining those GenAI techniques with traditional ML,
Right.
leveraging deep domain-specific knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
and fostering a culture of continuous learning.
Right. Agentic AI.
Mm-hmm.
You know, developing those autonomous AI agents that can do more complex tasks within the defined boundaries and safeguards.
Intelligent orchestration.
Yeah.
So this is about like dynamically coordinating all those different AI and business processes,
Right.
making sure that we can respond to things in real time.
Yep.
Hyper-personalization, creating those tailored and engaging experiences for customers,
Mm-hmm.
model training and fine-tuning. And so we're continuously improving the performance of our models,
Right.
making sure they're aligned with our specific needs, reducing latency,
Yeah.
regular updates, and enterprise knowledge graphs.
So this is structuring and connecting the vast amount of data, you know, enabling more accurate insights and uncovering those relationships.
Okay, so, I mean, this is really exciting stuff, but how do we make sure that we have all these capabilities in place to make this work?
Yeah.
You know, the report emphasizes that these highly mature GenAI capabilities are effectively governed, which means that we're using them responsibly and securely.
Yeah.
They're fundamentally sound. They're built on strong technical foundations.
Mm-hmm.
They're enabled for scale, so we can grow as we need to.
Yep.
They're future-focused, so we're anticipating what's coming. And they're highly adaptive, so we can respond to new information and changing circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we make sure all of this is actually in place?
Yeah, great question. So the report recommends that you start by safeguarding your environment and your solutions,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, set up those sandboxes for experimentation,
Right.
make sure you have clear usage guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
then empower a core group of GenAI champions within your organization.
Right.
You know, people who can really drive this, establish that GenAI Center of Enablement that we talked about earlier. To drive the adoption of those best practices, make sure that your capability roadmap is aligned with your solution roadmap.
Yeah.
Prioritize the foundational skills before you move to the advanced stuff.
Right.
And then design a lot of these capabilities as enterprise services.
Okay, so we've covered vision, strategy, productization, the capabilities,
Mm-hmm.
and now we arrive at the fifth and final key. Integrated insights to win with GenAI.
Yeah.
I love the way that the report kicks this section off. It basically describes this feeling of driving blind, which I think a lot of companies felt in those early days,
Mm-hmm.
of GenAI adoption. They knew where they wanted to get to, but there weren't a lot of clear directions.
Exactly.
They didn't have a lot of visibility into what might go wrong. They didn't have a clear focus.
Yeah.
And encountering all these new risks,
Mm-hmm.
and they weren't even sure if all this effort would lead to a positive ROI.
Totally. And that really captures the essence of the challenges.
Yeah.
You know, unclear objectives, a lack of diagnostic tools to identify issues like inaccurate outputs, efforts spread across too many different projects,
Right.
the emergence of those new security risks like prompt injection,
Yeah.
and ultimately just uncertainty about the return on investment.
Well, the good news is that we're starting to see some really significant advancements in Gen AI insights
Mm-hmm.
that are maturing
Yeah,
and providing us with that clearer visibility. So what are those?
right.
Integrated and targeted assessment solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So this helps us clarify what good actually looks like
Right.
in our specific context,
Mm.
and how do we benchmark our performance against those standards.
Right.
Enhanced evaluation solutions and methods.
Mm-hmm.
And this really underscores the importance of evaluation-driven development, or EDD.
Absolutely.
You'll also see more widespread adoption of strategies for strategic clarity with OKRs.
Mm-hmm.
So we can leverage automation and visualization to track progress against our objectives.
Mm.
Integrated risk management is evolving to seamlessly embed those security and responsible AI considerations throughout the entire life cycle.
That's right.
And then finally, there's a growing focus on demonstrable ROI through that proactive measurement of the impact of our Gen AI initiatives.
So effective Gen AI insights share these kind of key characteristics.
Okay.
They're full stack. They give you visibility across the whole pipeline from data to model output.
Mm-hmm.
They're integrated.
Yeah.
They bring together data from all those sources. They're real time where possible. So you can react quickly. They're easy to consume.
Yeah.
They present this complex information in a clear and understandable way. And crucially, they're insights, not just data. They help you understand what it means.
Okay. So how do we make sure we have these insights to guide this journey?
So you got to assess your Gen AI maturity.
Okay.
Right. Do those baseline assessments. Revisit them regularly to track your progress. Integrate evaluation data into your operations. Select the right tools.
Right.
Embed those metrics into your development and deployment pipelines.
Yeah.
Leverage OKRs for strategic clarity. Define those objectives and key results. Implement key risk indicators or KRIs to proactively